Hi everyone, Chernobyl here with another Genshin Impact video. Today I'm showing a randomized Abyss run for the version 2.2.4.12. This means that I ask a random number generator to assign me two teams and try to get a full star clear. On the top side, I was blessed with Zhongli, Xiangling, Ayaka, and Xingyan. Now this is an interesting team. On one extreme we have three characters who are extremely popular picks for Spiral Abyss, and on the other extreme, we do have my level 51 Xingyan. Sorry Xingyan. But it's okay. Getting underleveled characters and figuring out how to put them to use is part of the randomized Abyss experience. Damage-wise, both Xiangling and Ayaka are powerhouses, though there is a bit of anti-synergy going on, where Ayaka doesn't have any large instances of meltable damage outside of her E, but most of her damage comes from her Q. Her Q also follows standard ICD, so she can only melt about a quarter of her hits during Pyronado. My Zhongli is running a Geo damage goblet and a crit rate circlet, so his shield won't be able to withstand too many hits from these pyro agents. I try to make sure Zhongli is the only one taking damage in this chamber 1. I finish off the last pyro agent using Ayaka in order to save energy going to chamber 2. My bottom team is a bit more jank. I got Ganyu and Diona, aka the Great Diano, and together they make a great duo. Unfortunately, Yanfei and Chongyun are barely past level 50. Yanfei's main job will be to buff Ganyu using Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers, aka TTDS, and Chongyun's main job will be to buff Ganyu using 4-piece Noblesse as well as Wolf's Gravestone, or as I like to call it, TTGS, Thrilling Tales of Gravestone. These Hydro Mimics are really weak. They are but a shadow of their former glory back in version 1.5 with the terrifying Zoo on 12.2. And the Geo Vishap, although he is sturdier, also has a very exposed weak point on his head, which Ganyu can readily take advantage of. The second wave of enemies is just as easy as the first, thanks to copious amounts of AoE cryo damage, keeping the animals in check. Ideally, since I'm running Freeze Ganyu, I would have liked a Hydro character on this team, and since I didn't roll a Hydro character, I won't have access to Freeze in later chambers, which is going to make Ganyu's job much harder. With the ferrets taken care of, I see that there's only one enemy left with lots of spare time on the clock, so I decide to take it slow and make sure that everyone is in a pristine state by the end of this chamber. Here I give TTDS buff to Chongyun instead of Ganyu. Not the most efficient use of TTDS. My bad. Though it's not going to matter here in 12.1. And you can see that against the jumping Geo Bishop, Ganyu's taunt really shines as a form of soft crowd control, allowing me to do charge shots safely. Overall, 12.1 got noticeably easier compared to last cycle. No specters to worry about. And one more TTDS, not really necessary. And 3 stars. 12.2 has our old friend Magu Kenki. I'm pretty used to his moveset by now, though it's always nice to get that crit card. I start by switching to Xiangling and dropping Guoba to prepare a pepper. Actually, I should have also used Ayaka's E here to gain an Amenoma seed. When Kenki raises his sword, that's my signal to press Q on Zhongli. I then switch to Xiangling, snapshot the buffs from Guoba and 4-piece Noblesse onto Pyronado, then switch to Ayaka for some charge attacks. Note that I do not use Ayaka's burst at this stage, because that would be overkill, and I want to save that burst for phase 2, which begins now. Not only does Xingyan provide 4-piece Noblesse and Pyro Resonance, she also acts as a battery, not just for Xiangling, but also for Ayaka. Thanks to her C2, Xingyan gets a guaranteed crit with her burst, so pairing her with my R5 Favonius Greatsword means that I can funnel energy to anybody on demand. Quite convenient. After pinning Kenki against the wall, I try to finish him off with one more round of bursts. I put up the Zhongli shield for Res Shred. And thanks to the Amenoma passive, Ayaka's energy is full again, so she is synced up with Pyronado. With extremely good luck, this team can actually finish Magu Kenki in under a minute. 12.2 bottom is a torturous hellscape in a godforsaken world. This challenge took me about 120 retries, and like 100 of them were due to this half alone. The enemy lineup is similar to that of 12.2 from last cycle, but with more treasure hoarders. Now, if I had rolled Venti or Sucrose, this fight would be trivial. The treasure hoarders would just die for free. Or if I had rolled any Hydro unit to go with Ganyu, this would have been at least tolerable, if not trivial. But since I have neither crowd control nor freeze, I had to defeat the Cryo Seismic Mage and her huge cryo resistance using Ganyu and brute force. What makes this especially annoying is that the slightest mistake can be very costly. Getting frozen means a big loss of time. Getting ice caged means a big loss of time. Having a Seismic Mage shield up more than once means a big loss of time. These disastrous events can easily chain into one another and obliterate any hope of getting 3 stars. And the worst part is, none of these things can be fully negated by Diano's shield. While on the bright side, the attack buffs from the party really make an appreciable difference on Ganyu. Now, if you're planning to attempt this with Ganyu, I can give 2 tips. Even without hard crowd control, you can stagger the Seismic Mage and the Mirror Maiden using headshots. But this won't work all the time because certain animations grant them additional poise. You can also try to maximize the AoE icicle damage from Ganyu's burst when there are treasure hoarders or Saisons nearby, but this is extremely inconsistent due to enemy AI. Regardless, be prepared to dodge a lot of ice cages and bubbles. Speaking of bubbles, note that the Hydro Aura spawns not 4 but 8 bubbles. It's just that due to distance, only 4 of them are visible initially. Cecilia Garden is a good place to practice that. Alright, that was close, but 3 stars is 3 stars. I obtained another crit card and get ready for the last chamber. Unlike last cycle, where 12-3 top was a pushover, both halves of 12-3 are roughly equal this time. I usually wait for at least one snake to dig, then run toward the other one, so that they are grouped. If neither of them dig, I just hit the reset button. The Ruin Hunter always follows me, which is perfect. And once they are grouped, it's time to unleash the crazy AoE damage scalings on Xiangling and Ayaka's elemental bursts. Doesn't take too long before these enemies turn into scraps. For the second wave, I petrify the triangular Ruin Cruisers before they can backdash. And here again, I use Xingyan's burst to battery Ayaka just in case I'll need one more Sakura Swirl. This cruise comes to an abrupt end as Pyronado comes up, and I chase down the other cruiser and have order on it. With the combined power of the catch and 4-piece emblem on Xiangling, it turns out that a few charge attacks from Ayaka will suffice. Didn't need another Ayaka burst. Ah, suffering from success. With only one character doing the heavy lifting, 12-3 bottom will be trickier than topside, but nothing extraordinary. I keep my distance from these Ruin Cruisers to prevent them from backdashing out of Ganyu's burst. And Ganyu's burst is going to snapshot all of TTDS, 4-piece Noblesse, and Elegy. Since Diano's shield doesn't have full uptime, I'm forced to lose a bit of DPS dodging enemy attacks. However, Icicles continue to fall during this time, and seeing their low HP, I stack TTGS as well as TTDS on Ganyu, and go to town with charge shots. With a couple charge shots, now there remains but a Ruin Guard. And conveniently, this Ruin Guard decides to allow me an easy shot on its weak points. And now it's a sitting duck. If I had a better sense of orientation, I would be positioning myself where the next wave spawns. Okay, so far so good. Here I switch to Yanfei, but these robots test my dodging skills, and I don't quite pass the bar. A bummer, because now I no longer have access to TTDS. But at this point, I know I can finish with 3 stars, as long as Ganyu is alive. The main thing I have to watch out for is the seismic waves from the Geo Aura, which take out a nasty chunk of Ganyu's HP. But this is compensated by the fact that these enemies don't do much to get in my way. Also, they tend to stick close to me, so that makes grouping them rather easy. I do another cycle of buffing and snapshotting for Ganyu's burst, and alternate between relying on Diano's shield and relying on Ganyu's taunt for protection. Her taunt can actually absorb seismic waves. And another gravestone proc, a couple more charge shots. It's funny how easy everything feels compared to 12-2. And that concludes another 9-star randomized run of floor 12. While my stats and builds play in the background, I'm just gonna ramble about various things related to Genshin. So, the upcoming banners. Yeah, the banners are quite exciting for me. Probably for many others as well. I actually want all 3 of the 4 stars on the character banner this time. Toma, Sayu, and Diana. That hasn't happened in a while. And simultaneously, the weapon banner is just incredible. It has Homa, which will be good for Hu Tao if I get her, and Xiangling and Raiden if I don't. It has Elegy, which will be good for a bunch of bow user supports, as I demonstrated just now. It has Sacrificial Sword, which will be good for Xingqiu, and it has Witsip, which will be good on Klee. I mean, just wow, what a banner. We haven't had banners this good in a while. Here you can see my Xingyan with her Fav Greatsword in C3. Not just a rockstar, but also a particle physicist. I actually tried breaking the Cryo Siphon Mage's shield on 12-2 bottom with Yanfei to see if it saves time. It doesn't really save time. Easier just to kill the Siphons with Ganyu, honestly. One day, I will level everyone past 70 for the free fate, but it is kind of expensive, I gotta say. My Diano right now is at C3, so hopefully this banner brings me closer to her legendary C6, and that sweet EM buff. And here you can see my Ganyu. My Blizzard pieces on Ganyu are kind of copium. I usually prefer running Melt Ganyu with 4-piece Wonder, where I have better substats, but for this randomized run, her burst does contribute a lot, so I went with 4-piece Blizzard in spite of not having any Hydro. Showing you here, of course, is wielding the Wolf's Gravestone, or TTGS, that I got from Standard Banner. Okay, and with that, thank you so much for watching. This is Chernobyl, signing out.